There we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Meeting is live. We can start with the meeting instructions.
Good evening. Thank you for attending our first virtual Board of Adjustment meeting. We appreciate your patience and understanding through this time. For the public who would like to participate in this public hearing and are not already connected and able to audibly communicate with the board, please call 407-665-7443. Staff will provide information on how to participate. In the event that a speaker has lost connection while communicating with the board, the applicant will need to reconnect to the webinar. The board will determine whether or not to continue the agenda item to the end of the hearing as to not delay the meeting. All public comments will be audio only, no video. When the public comment period arrives on the agenda, the chairman will ask for anyone to speak in support of the item to raise their hand. Please use the raise hand feature and wait to be recognized. The webinar host will unmute your microphone. Persons joining the meeting via phone can use the virtual raise hand feature by pressing 9 on the phone's keypad. Board members and staff will be visible. The video option is disabled for applicant and members of the public. This meeting will be conducted in the same manner that we would in a regular meeting. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. The applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of their request. Those in opposition to the request will be heard next. The applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal if necessary. The board may ask questions of speakers or staff members. At the conclusion of all speakers, I will then ask the board for a motion. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Once the board has voted on your item, you may leave the meeting if you wish. Speakers should identify themselves clearly for the record by stating their name and address. Comments should be restricted to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. Speakers should mute televisions and computers to limit background feedback while speaking. Please be aware that information such as pictures, site plans, letters, etc., presented at the public hearing will be kept by the clerk as part of the public record. Individuals will be given 3 minutes for their comments. If you are speaking on behalf of an official group, you will have 6 minutes for comments. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may within 15 days file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners through the Planning and Development Division of the Development Services Department. Okay, we're ready for our first item.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, Angie Calfer, Planning and Development with Planning and Development. The agenda item number 1 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 10 feet for a detached garage in the R1A single family dwelling district located at 1930 Westlake Brantley Road in the Brantley Shores First Edition subdivision. The proposed detached garage will be 576 square feet and will encroach 20 feet into the required rear yard setback. We received a letter of opposition from the neighbor located at 2431 Palmetto Drive. That letter of opposition was emailed to the board this morning. One similar variance in the neighborhood was approved by the BOA in 2007 from 30 feet to 12 feet for an 800 square foot shed carport located at 2421 Oak Drive. This concludes my presentation for item number 1, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for staff.
Hey, board members, do we have any questions for staff?
No.
Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
What the fuck is going on?
We are working with the applicant right now. They've called in. If we can just give it a couple of seconds, our co-host is trying to assist them getting connected.
Okay.
The applicant is telephoning in and I am just waiting for his number to come up as an attendee. As soon as it does, I will transfer him into the hearing. Okay. Ashley, you have him on speakerphone? Why isn't it-
Happy?
Yes, do you have the applicant on speakerphone?
Yes, and then the call drops.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
I'm going to call him back right now.
Mhm.
Bear with me one moment.
Okay, if this isn't successful, we're going
This is him.
to item 2.
Hello, Eric? Hello, you are on the meeting.
Okay,
Happy,
Alright.
can you hear?
copy. 10-4.
Okay, sir.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Eric Velasquez, and the address is 1930 W Lake Granley Road.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to tell the board about your request?
Yeah. There's anything what?
Is there anything you would like to let us know about your request? Anything you want to tell us? You think?
Algo que tú quieres saber sobre el request, sobre lo que tú quieres, el request que tú quieres hacer.
Mr. Chairman, I can't understand him.
He has a translator.
The only question I have is I can do it by request. The one that I say about 30 feet, if I can do it closer to the fence, 10 feet.
Okay. We know you want to move, you want a variance to move, to build a detached garage 10 feet off the property line.
Yeah, 10 feet closer to the fence because I have a boat. If I put it 30 feet farther from the wall, I would not be able to put my boat inside the thing, the ship, because the angles. If it's 10 feet closer to the wall, it will be easier for me to put the boat inside. It will be better.
Okay, so you need the extra distance so that you can turn your boat around in the driveway? Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Coover?
It appears to me that your neighbor objects, number one. And number two, it appears to me that if you know how to drive a boat, you can cut the boat in there and move the garage in its proper place. You indicated that it would be easier to do it that way, and I would agree. But my question is, have you talked to your neighbor who objects to your shed being located there?
Yeah, 1 second. Dice que si hablaste con los neighbors si dio el problema con eso, con el vecino.
Los vecinos hablamos, no hablé con ellos, con el de derecha mano y con el otro, no tengo problema. Pero con el de atrás no hablaba.
So, con el de la izquierda está bien.
Y el de la
El de también está bien. Bueno, acá ya no todavía. I talked to the one to my left and right, my neighbor from my left and my right. They're fine with it. They're fine with it. But I haven't talked to the person in the back behind my house.
That's who has the objection.
Okay,
So there's like a big space between the house and their house and us.
so you talked to your neighbors on both sides, but the applicant or the neighbor who objected, you have not spoken to.
Yeah, and they're fine with it. The ones in the back I haven't talked to them yet. But I mean, there's still a lot of space from the neighbor in the back and my house. There's a gap between.
Okay. Any other questions? Is Mr. Beagley still with us? I lost him on my screen.
I'm here.
Okay. I can't see you, so if you have a question, you just have to speak up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm here. I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sir, thank you very much. Is there
No problem.
is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone?
We have no other speakers for this item,
So we have no one to speak in opposition to the request?
correct?
Okay. Board, do we have a motion? I'm going to need you to, for today, to make it easier on staff, when you make a motion, state your name and then your motion. And when we vote, I'm going to poll in alphabetical order. So they know who said what. Okay, do we have a motion?
I have a motion.
Yes, sir.
Steve Coover. Based upon staff's recommendation and the objection of the rear neighbor, I move to disapprove the request.
I second.
Who was I second?
Austin. Beagley.
Okay. So Mr. Coover made a motion to deny the request. Mr. Bigley seconded the motion. Do we have any discussion? Okay. Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Coover?
I'm voting yay for the motion.
Right.
Oh, well. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm voting for the motion as well to
Okay.
disapprove. Sorry.
Mr. Bigley's in favor of the motion. Mr. Cooper's in favor of the motion. Mr. Hadaway?
I'm in favor of the motion.
And he's in favor of the motion. I am also in favor of the motion. The motion carries unanimously, 4-0. If the applicant would like to appeal this, they need to get with staff within 15 days. Okay, next item.
Okay, again, Angie Calfer, planner with Seminole County Planning and Development. Agenda item number 2 is a request for a side yard south setback variance from 10 feet to 4 feet for an addition in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District located at 116 Cherry Hill Circle in the Meredith Manor Cherry Hill Section Subdivision. The applicants are proposing to place a roof on the existing garden walls that are located in the south side yard setback. The proposed addition will be 99 square feet and will encroach 6 feet into the required side yard south setback. The Brantley Harbor Homeowners Association has approved the proposed addition, and a letter of support has been received from the directly affected neighbor located at 118 Cherry Hill Circle. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have for staff.
Okay, if I understand this correctly, they just want to put a roof on the existing footprint. The walls are already there.
The wall's already there. It's just like a garden wall.
I understand that they would roof it in.
Yeah.
That's the variance. Okay. Board members, you have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Yes. Michael Kigan, can you hear me?
Yes, you state your address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. 116 Cherry Hill Circle.
Okay, sir. Is there anything you would like to tell us about your request?
I think it's an existing wall that we would like to just put a roof on. It's a very substantial wall. It's a 12-inch concrete block wall with a significant foundation, and it's stone faced. A garden wall built when the home was constructed in the mid 70s and used to serve as an exterior garden from a bathroom window that no longer exists. So it's right now just a three-sided walled structure. And our goal is to put a roof on it just below the existing roof, not to try to match the existing roof continuation. So we would put the roof structure trusses sloping up consistently with the face of the house. And then there's also, it's surrounded by mature landscaping already from the street. So it's pretty innocuous, indistinguishable, and it would be a very minimal additional roof structure. And we would make that space a conditioned space for an extension of a closet in order to enhance the value of the home.
Okay, is that everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, I had a question for you. Do you have any future plans that you know of other than doing the fence and possibly pushing that wall out any further? Or is it pretty much going to be, once you get that wall in, you don't have any plans on pushing it out any further?
No, sir. So the wall already exists, and we would just be capping it with a truss system and a matching roof shingle, asphalt roof shingle that would be consistent with the rest of the home. The face of the wall is in line with the front facade of the house, and it's continuous. There's no break in the line. So when you look at the face of the house, our house looks wider than it actually is because this garden wall extends to the south along the face of the facade.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no hands risen to speak in favor or opposition of the request.
Okay, no one to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Beagley, there's a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Hoover, second.
Mr. Cooper, second. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
I vote yay.
Okay, Mr. Coover,
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway, Mr. Hadaway?
Mr. Chairman, he's muted. I think he's holding up a sign right now saying, unmute me, please.
Ah,
There we go. Aye, yay, yes.
okay. And I vote yes as well. The motion carries 4-0. It's approved. Thank you. Next item.
Okay. Angie Calfer, Planning and Development. Agenda item number 3 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 10 feet to 8 feet for a shed located at 1492 Southwind Drive in the Deer Run Unit 8A subdivision and is within the Deer Run plan development. The existing shed is 192 square feet and encroaches 2 feet into the required rear yard setback. There is a code enforcement violation for this property, 19-249, for construction of a shed without the proper permits. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property or similar variances for the surrounding property. And this concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Board members, do we have any questions for staff?
No.
The applicant present, please raise your hand.
The applicant contacted their project manager earlier this afternoon, and I, Kathy Hamill, returned their phone call and haven't heard back from them. We can move this agenda item to the end for the project manager to try to contact her again to get her to either phone in or register for the conference. That is up to the board to move the item to the end for the project manager to coordinate with her.
Okay, board members, if you don't have any objections, just move this to the end. Give them a
So
chance to
moved.
get this out. Okay,
Okay, so we'll move to item number 5. And agenda item number 5 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 20 feet to 10 feet for an addition in the
Angie.
art.
Angie, it's item number 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Agenda item number 4 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 10 feet to 4 feet for a shed in the R1A single family dwelling district located at 838 North Jericho Drive in the Orange Grove Park Unit 2 subdivision. The existing shed is 120 square feet and encroaches 6 feet into the required rear yard setback. The Orange Grove Park Unit 2 Homeowners Association has approved the shed. The existing shed encroaches 3.5 feet into a 7.5-foot utility easement, and at building permitting time will be required to meet the criteria for placement of a shed with an estoppel letter. There is a code violation, 20-32, for unpermitted construction of a shed without the required permits. The neighbors located at 842 North Jericho and 1558 Crossbeam Drive have submitted letters of opposition, and those letters were emailed to the board at the end of last week. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property. And this concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer.
okay. Board members, do you have any questions for staff?
I do.
Yes, sir. Mr. Adams?
The applicant in their handwritten responses to the variance criteria form stated that they supplied photos of sheds within their neighborhood. Did they? And if they did, can we see them?
I,
Yeah, the photos
anything
that are in
that,
our packet, there's nothing of neighboring sheds.
I don't remember, hold on. I don't remember receiving anything of neighboring sheds. Any of the emails were forwarded to,
We can ask the applicant then.
yeah, the only pictures that I received were the pictures that were in the slideshow
Yeah, okay.
or the PowerPoint. I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello?
Good evening. Could you state your name and address for the record, sir?
38 North Jericho Drive, Castleberry.
Can you state your name again? It cut off.
Barry Roselle, Roselle.
Okay, thank you. Sir, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
Well, the biggest reason I put the shed where I put them is because there's a Bright House cable line right through the middle of my yard. And my neighbor at 842 Jericho Drive, I put it 43 feet away from his house because I didn't want to be anywhere near his house. And there's also a line that runs right along the back of the back fence. So I had to put the shed in between those two spots. That was the only place I could find in the yard that had that much room.
Okay, so the site placement is based on the existing underground cables.
Yes, the Bright House one, which is now Spectrum, to run right through the middle of my yard, and the one that ran in the very back of it along the fence.
Okay. Have you spoken to your neighbors who have opposition?
We didn't really know which ones those were.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, if it's my neighbor at 842 Jericho Drive, we just had a restraining order on him. So that would be kind of an issue of talking to him. And yeah, like I said, that's the reason I put it so far away from his property. And I wish I'd asked the people behind me, but I did not. I got the okay with the HOA. I kind of thought that I was okay on that. And I went down and tried to check on the permitting, and I'm sorry, all I could get out of it was a 10 by 12 shed was okay. But I don't know if that was right or not now. So,
Okay.
I don't know.
You stated in your application that you had sent in pictures of other neighbors with similar
Yes.
sheds. Okay, and staff cannot locate those. What can you tell us about that? How many are we talking about? How close are they to you?
They're all around the neighborhood. Can you see them? Probably can't see them then.
No.
Yeah, there are quite a few of them around the neighborhood. Some of them are right next to each other. And I probably found 5 or 6 just in my neighborhood of this particular size, 10 by 12s. But I don't know for sure if they all had permits or not. But some of them were real close to the, to the fence. I don't know. I was ignorant. I don't know what I should have done right now. I'm kind of frustrated, but the reason I put it there is because of that cable cord running right through the middle of our yard. I would have moved it farther away if it hadn't been for that.
I understand. Okay, board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
And I do have one other thing to say. We did get an okay from the, I'm sorry, the cable companies.
All right, Mr. Coover has a question?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, this is to the applicant. I understand why you did what you did, but you have a neighbor who's objecting to your location. And I would suggest to you that the cable line is not in an easement area and that you could have that relocated and put the shed in an area where you wouldn't have to ask for a variance. Because if your neighbor objects, there's no way that I can support your application. So you may want to continue this and do a little more work on that. Just a suggestion.
May I speak? My name is Stephanie Roselle. I am Barry Roselle's wife, and I also live in the home. The shed is already up, and we're not sure why the neighbor in the back would object. And as stated before, the neighbor facing the front of the house, the neighbor to the left of us, we've had ongoing problems with, and he had a restraining order on him at some point, and he's got ill will towards us. and we have the shed as far away from there as possible. The problem is the shed's already up.
I understand the shed is in place.
Correct.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the request?
No.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request?
No.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Coover, move to deny based on the neighbor's objection, staff's recommendation.
All right, Mr. Coover's made a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
He's muted again. Staff, we have, he's muted again. Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
Okay, Mr. Hadaway is going to second the motion to deny.
Negative. Beagley seconding. Hadaway is on mute again.
I think I'm back, guys. I'll third, yeah.
There. Bigley seconded it. Thank you. All right. Do we have any discussion?
You talking to me?
To anybody, do we have anything we need to discuss?
Do we need to tear it down?
Yeah, does that mean we tear it down?
Hold on, we haven't voted yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, we have no discussion. Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Yeah.
You vote in favor of the request?
In favor of the request.
Or in favor of the motion, I mean?
In favor of the motion, not in favor of the request. That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Coover,
For the motion.
he's for the motion. Mr. Hadaway,
In favor of the motion.
in favor of the motion. I also vote in favor of the motion. The motion carries 4-0. The request is denied. To the applicant, you have 15 days to appeal our decision to the Board of County Commissioners. If you get with staff, they will explain your options to you. Okay, we're ready for the next item.
Okay. Agenda item number 5. Is that what we are on now, just to be sure? Yes. Agenda item number 5 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 20 feet to 10 feet for an addition in the RM1 Single Family Mobile Home District located at 121 Vagabond Way, located in the Mobile Manor Second Section subdivision. The proposed addition will be approximately 274 square feet and encroaches 10 feet into the required rear yard setback. I'm sorry, the proposed addition is already there, so it isn't proposed. It's existing. I'm sorry about that. It's approximately 274 square feet and encroaches 10 feet into the required rear yard setback. The addition consists of a solid roof screen room, bedroom, and bathroom, and a wet bar area without cooking facilities. The property directly behind where the variance is being sought is a large commercial use development located in the city of Altamont Springs. The uses include an LA Fitness, restaurants, drugstore, and other shops with similar commercial uses. One letter of support was received from the neighbor located at 128, 132, and 136 Vagabond Way, being the same owner of all 3 properties. The staff report originally stated 2 letters were received, but upon further review, the same person owns all 3 properties. An open building code violation number 1902 for the construction without the proper building permits was issued in January 2019. Mr. Taylor has been in contact with code enforcement and is trying to properly remedy the violation. No previous variances for this lot, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, has the residence been built yet?
Yes, they did receive a building permit for the actual house, but they had the code violation for what was originally a shed.
Right.
They can't have the shed as living space, so they are attaching it by a solid roof screen room to the existing house with building permit. And that shed area is going to be a living space without cooking facilities.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Cooper.
Can you tell me what is to the rear of the property?
Yes, commercial uses. It is an LA Fitness, restaurants, small restaurants like Kiki's and the LA Fitness, I think a Walgreens or CVS.
CVS.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
and just miscellaneous shops.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Yes, sir. Scott Taylor, 121 Vagabond Way. Here with the property owners Suzanne Taylor and Matthew Taylor.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to tell us about your application?
Yes, sir. I have sent more current pictures, which you're looking at now. In the past, there was a mobile home. My father, those are the current pictures of the new house. Thank you. My father, who passed away in November, had built the shed, had the permits for the home in process with the building department. I've been in direct contact with Mr. Pike and Mr. Healy. We've spent thousands of dollars to get the building permits issued. Also, as you can see by the current pictures, which I sent in today, construction is well underway. To the rear of the property is the CVS store. It's actually the rear driveway where the trucks unload and load for CVS and other businesses. Beyond the lot line, there is an additional 20 feet that is the city of Altamont's property that is not an easement. It runs the length of the street. I do need to make two corrections. Miss Angie said that the total square footage was 274 square feet. That is incorrect. In this picture, you can see the screen porch. The 4x4 at the corner of the screen porch on the far left is within the setback. That's 20 feet away from the back of the property. The shed, which we're going to convert to a bedroom and a bathroom with no cooking area, will be attached to the porch once the variance is granted. I have revisions submitted with Mr. Pike and the building department that are being reviewed pending the approval of the variance. The shed will become a part of the active building permit for the house. That will satisfy both of the code enforcement violations for unpermitted construction and encroaching on the rear setback where the shed was, which was on the property line. I had the shed moved to a little more than 10 feet. I think it's 10 feet, 4 inches off the rear property line when I had the lot cleared, and also applied for the variance. The second correction, and again, the square footage of the porch is 100 square feet. The square footage of the shed, which will be converted to a bedroom and a bathroom, is 174 square feet. The letter of support is from the owner. He actually owns 11 properties in Mobile Manor. 3 are on the street. The other 8 are on the adjoining street. He's in support. What else can I tell you?
Okay, so it's the total square footage is going to be 274 square feet, right?
No, ma'am. The total square footage for the variance purpose is 174 square feet.
Okay.
As I just explained, the 10 by 10 covered porch is within the setbacks. The shed is not.
But the porch wasn't part of the house permit yet. You haven't done the revision yet, right?
The porch is revision number 1.
Okay, but it's also
going to be
so it's a total addition.
No, the building department chose to permit this as 1 revision instead of 2.
Right.
Fine.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 274 square feet.
Yes.
Okay. Is that all in your presentation, sir?
The only other thing I would say is there have been other variances in the area nearby granted for rear yard setbacks, even less than what we're asking for.
Okay. All right, board members, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Mm-mm.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay, board members, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Hadaway made a motion to approve, Mr. Beagley seconded.
Other
Any-
way.
Other way around, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't see everybody on my screen for some reason. I just see part of the windows. Okay. Any discussion? All right. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Yay.
Okay. Mr. Coover,
Okay,
Mr. Hadaway,
In favor of the motion?
and I'm also in favor of the motion. The motion carries 4-0. Okay, next item.
Okay, agenda item 6 is a request for 1, a side yard north setback variance from 10 feet to 3 feet, and 2, a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 27.5 feet for detached garage in the R1 AA Single Family Dwelling District located at 2342 Audley Street. The proposed detached garage will be 600 square feet and will encroach 7 feet into the required side yard north setback and 2.5 feet into the rear yard setback. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property or any similar variances for other lots in the neighborhood. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have for staff.
Okay, board members, you have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Raise your hand.
Yes, I'm present. My name is Christopher Grigg and I live at 2342 Audley Street in Oviedo.
Well, good evening, sir. Is there anything you would like to tell us about your application?
I didn't hear that there was any opposition from my neighbors, which is good. I spoke to the neighbor at 2334, which is the property where the garage would be adjacent to. And he said he had no opposition. And I spoke to the neighbor across the street, which would be facing the garage at 2337. And he also said he didn't have any issues with me building that garage.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay, do we have a motion?
Hadaway, move to approve?
Mr. Hadaway,
Beagley seconds.
Mr. Hadaway moved to approve. Mr. Bigley is seconded. We have any discussion? Okay, Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Yay.
All right, Mr. Coover,
okay,
Mr. Hadaway,
In support?
and I am also in support. The motion carries 4-0. Next item.
Agenda item 7 is a request for a side street north setback variance from 25 feet to 0 feet for a privacy fence located at 708 Riverbend Boulevard in the Sweetwater Oaks section plan development. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Sweetwater Oaks Homeowners Association has approved the proposed fence location, and the proposed privacy fence is 15 feet from the edge of pavement, and there isn't a sidewalk in place at this time. A letter of support was received from the directly affected neighbor located at 709 Riverbend Boulevard, from where the variance is being sought, and there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. And this concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer.
Do you know if the county intends to place any sidewalks in that area?
I do not know that they have any intention of doing that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Present. My name is Shane McGarry. I reside at 708 Riverbend Boulevard, Longwood, Florida.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Is anything you would like to tell us about your application?
No, sir.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, do we have? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Beagley's motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Beagley made a motion to approve. Mr. Hadaway has seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Favor.
Mr. Coover? Mr. Cooper, how do you vote, sir?
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway?
In support.
And I am in support. The motion carries 4-0. Next item.
Hillary, you have to unshare. Okay. Someone needs to unmute Hillary.
I muted myself.
Sorry.
That's okay. Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 8 is a variance request for lot 24 on Lake Harney Road, located in the Lake Harney Ranch Estate subdivision. The request is for a front yard setback reduction from 50 feet to 25 feet to construct a single-family residence on a vacant parcel in the A1 zoning district. The proposed residence would be a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, single-story home with 1,625 square feet of living space. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions for staff? Mr. Coover?
Hillary, did you talk to the applicant about moving back 10 feet?
I did not know.
Do you have any idea why he won't move back 10 feet?
If he moves back 10 feet, then I believe that would put him in his rear yard setback.
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. I believe if he moved back, that would then put him into his rear yard, would it not?
Does he have trees? Does he have low land? Why will he not move it back?
I did not discuss that with him, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for staff?
Me, yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Hillary, am I reading or looking at the aerials correctly, that what he's proposing would more or less be consistent with the setback of his neighbor to the west?
They are similar, yes. They are smaller lots there. And there's about 3 of them that are right next to each other that are similar size.
Gotcha, thank you.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Hillary, do we know if there's a variance for the lot to the west?
I did not find one. I can check into that if you want to give me a moment.
Wouldn't they have to get one to get a final on their foundation?
Yes, they would need to get one if they were constructing. Foundation wouldn't necessarily, concrete we don't require permitting for.
Yeah, you're right. Be for the CO.
Let me see. Which lot number is it that you're referencing?
That's all right. Why don't we go forward?
I don't see one in recent years, at least. Off immediate.
The road's pretty far off the property line anyway.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Mr. Mann?
Yeah,
You're, sir, proceed.
Jeff Mann, 4200 North County Road 426, Geneva.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
Sure. The latest one happens to be my neighbor to the west. They did theirs a couple years ago, and I pretty much did the same setbacks. I used their variance application as a pattern for mine. These are all smaller lots platted in 1961 out there. And I just kind of tried to stay consistent with the existing community.
Okay, so the reason you're not moving it 10 feet backwards would be that you're trying to match what your neighbors have already done.
Exactly. And I would encroach the rear yard setback if I did that as well. And the road is quite a ways from the front, and I just wanted to match neighbors to make it look more consistent.
I understand. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
No, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, board members, do we have a motion?
Hadaway, move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Mr. Hadaway. Do we have a second?
Beagley seconds.
Mr. Beagley seconds. Do we have any discussion? Okay, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor.
In favor, Mr. Coover?
In favor.
In favor, Mr. Hadaway?
In favor.
And I will vote in favor. Motion carries 4-0. All right, next item.
Item number 9 is a variance request for lot 13A on West Paulinda Avenue, located in the Adele Park First subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 15.5 feet to construct a single-family residence on a vacant parcel in the R1A zoning district. The proposed residence would have 1,825 square feet of living space with a 2-car garage. A letter of support has been received by an unaffected neighbor located at 5320 Don Marsh Street. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, I don't know. So this is a triangular shaped lot, basically.
Correct. It was recently part of a lot split that we approved in the recent year.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Mahone?
Hello?
Yeah, this is Ron Smith. I'm not the applicant, but the applicant is here with me. I'm the architect, actually.
Okay. You're acting as the applicant's representative?
Yes,
And you said the applicant's present with you?
yes.
I am, yes.
Okay, for the record, can the applicant state their name and address?
Yes, name is Mela McFall with First Financial Freedom LLC. Address is 836 West Shore Court, Castleberry, Florida, 32707.
Okay, and you want to defer your presentation to your representative and you just answer questions?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Sir, could you introduce your name and address, please?
My name is Ron Smith. My address is 3624 Deer Oak Circle in Oviedo, Florida.
Okay, what would you like to tell us about the request?
Well, as you stated, this is it's a regular lot, and it is a triangle with a long side across the front, and then it basically backs up to a solid fence on the back and a small green strip along Pepper Brush Cove there. And then across that street and set back from that is a row of houses in another neighborhood, basically. There actually isn't a rear neighbor in a sense. So, and there really isn't an adjacent house on the left-hand side. The only adjacent property would actually be to the right-hand end. So we've squeezed this 1,800 square feet, which actually it's like 1,350 square feet of living space onto this site in the basically the minimum plan that we could get there, but still had to move past the rear setback, which was 30 feet, like I said, to approximately 15 feet or 15 and a half feet in order to get the building on the site. I don't think any of the neighbors are impacted from the placement of this house, like I said, because there really isn't anybody to the rear except across the road and across the fence, so forth. So we're not. I don't think anybody has an objection to this, or as far as I've seen. I don't think we've gotten any letter or anything of objection from any of the neighbors, which would be across the street. I guess they are. It would be very difficult to build a property within the setbacks on this property. It's just you'd end up with a really irregular plan and a lot of probably very small rooms or triangular shaped rooms, or like I said, it would be very difficult to stay within that 30-foot rear setback.
I understand. Applicant probably does not want to live in a triangular shaped house.
No, sir.
Of about 300 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant or the applicant's representative? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, board members, do we have a motion?
Hoover, move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Coover moved to approve. Mr. Hadaway, second. Discussion? All in favor? All right. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Cooper?
In favor?
Mr. Hadaway?
In favor?
I'm in favor. The motion carries 4-0. All right, next item.
Item number 10 is a variance request for 608 Old Pine Court located in the Preserve at Eagle Lake subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 10 feet to 6.2 feet to construct a screen room addition onto an existing townhome in the Creekside Plan Development. The request is to construct a 150 square foot screen room, which will encroach approximately 3.8 feet into their rear yard setback. The rear of their property abuts Track G, which is an open space easement. The Preserve at Eagle Lake Homeowners Association has approved the construction of a white 15-foot by 10-foot screen enclosure with a front entrance storm door and paver patio. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, 6.2 feet.
That's right.
Precise. Okay. Any questions for staff? Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello, my name is Daniel Soto, 608 Old Pine Court.
Okay. Mr. Soto, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your request?
Yes, I love to sit outside and go weather, and we have nowhere to sit outside. I would love to screen the screen porch so I can enjoy my nice days here in Florida. And also in the evening, that's right behind our home, which is the living room, and the sun hits us very hard, and we have to close our shades and that, and we would try to we would like to avoid doing that. And we spoke to our neighbors, and they are very much in agreement with it. And as you see in the pictures behind us, there's nothing but trees and forests, so there's no other neighbors that are going to be seeing the porch.
Okay. Does that conclude what you wanted to tell us, sir?
Yes.
There's other people.
Sir, why, I just got to ask, why 6.2 feet? Why not 6 feet or 7 feet?
That was my contractor. I don't know why he did that. I really don't understand that, but that's all I can tell you about that.
Can I talk?
Yeah,
I believe-
I would like to say something.
Yeah, the reason is because of the measurements of the lot. And we want to extend it to 10 feet. So I think what is left is the 6.2.
Okay. I was just curious.
It's where the house currently falls from the rear property line, and then putting the addition on is an even number, which makes it,
Right.
6.2.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicants? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, board, do we have a motion?
Hadaway, move to approve.
Mr. Hadaway, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Cooper, second.
Mr. Cooper, seconds. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor of.
Mr. Cooper?
In favor?
Mr. Hadaway?
Favor?
I'm in favor. The motion carries 4-0. Next item.
Item number 11 is a variance request for 471 Sanford Avenue, located in the San Lando Springs subdivision. The request is for a west side street setback reduction from 25 feet to 0 feet for a privacy fence in the R1AA zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces south on Sanford Avenue, the west side of the property facing Ohio Avenue, is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot privacy fence at the side street property line, extending entirely into the required side street setback. The fence would be located approximately 14.5 feet from the edge of pavement at its closest point without a sidewalk to encroach upon. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. A letter of support has been received from the adjacent property owner to the north at 331 Ohio Avenue. This concludes my presentation. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
Yes. For the record, what is the open space that's adjacent to the request?
That was the Rolling Hills Golf Course, which has now become it's going to be a passive park.
Thank you.
Mr. Hadaway?
Same question. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just so you know, on this picture, that fence and those bushes are no longer there.
Okay. All right. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello.
Good evening. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, of course. My name is Mauricio Lopez. I am at 471 Sanford Avenue.
Okay, sir. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the opportunity. So we've lived in the property for a few years. And so finally got to save a little bit of money to put a privacy fence. So we are just looking for a reasonable level of privacy, safety, and security, and be able to enjoy our pool and on our porch without everybody being able to see our business. Some photos really, I mean, we're pretty much at an open. Now that the park, and we love the having a park, but the level of people walking by in golf carts now approved in the property, it's increased, particularly late in the evenings when we just are able to sit out. So we are regarding privilege, what we've seen, it is a couple other properties that I think 1450 Barton, which is just a block in the back. That one I think received a variance, and there was another property just here down the road also that has setbacks on 2 sides, which is also a pseudo triangular lot there with view also of the golf course in the park. So as I said, just looking to provide my family for a little bit of privacy, safety, and security so that we can enjoy, like the other applicant said, just these beautiful spring days here in Florida. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, sir. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. All right, is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, board members, do we have a motion?
Beagley moves to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Beagley. We have a second from Mr. Hadaway. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor of.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
In favor?
I'll vote in favor. The motion carries 4-0. Next item, please.
Item number 12 is a variance request for 4633 Tiffany Woods Circle, located in the Tiffany Woods subdivision. The request is for an east side street setback reduction from 25 feet to 0 feet for a privacy fence in the R1 AA zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces north on Tiffany Woods Circle. The east side of the property facing Myra Court is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot privacy fence at the side street property line, extending entirely into the required 25-foot side street setback. The fence would be constructed on top of an existing retaining wall that abuts the sidewalk and will be located approximately 14 feet from the edge of pavement. The fence would extend into a 10-foot utility easement, and at building permitting will be required to meet criteria for placement with an estoppel letter. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here.
I have a question. Since it would be on top of a retaining wall, that doesn't count towards the height of the fence?
No, because it's from the subject property side, which would just be 6 feet.
Okay, so if it was reversed, it would count,
Correct.
but since he's on the high side, it does not.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Coover, you had a question?
Yes, Hillary, is the retaining wall in the easement area also?
Yes, the easement area runs, it's actually along the back side of it is where the easement is.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, absolutely. Jack Luker, 4633 Tiffany Wood Circle.
Well, good evening, sir.
Hello.
Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
Yes, please. So the main thing, as you can probably tell by the pictures, is the way the property is set out. We're kind of like a fishbowl. We have no privacy whatsoever. So the main thing is for the privacy and the protection of the backyard and to be able to enjoy as much as the backyard as possible. Also, the neighbor, I don't know if you guys are looking at the same screen, but the house that you can see in the back, if you're looking at the slide number 8, they've okayed and said they have no problem with it, as well as other people in the cul-de-sac that also said that they were okay with it.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not at this time, thanks.
And how much room, sir, would that give you between the house and the fence?
The house and the fence is 25 feet.
25 feet. And
Or
is there,
the house and the retaining wall is 25 feet.
right. Then you want to put the fence right on top of the retaining wall?
It's actually going to be in the yard, not on top of the wall.
Well, but up against the retaining wall?
Correct, yes.
So if I'm standing on the sidewalk, I'm going to look and see, I don't know, it looks like that's about a 3-foot retaining wall.
Mhm.
So I'm going to see 9 feet of wall or fence.
Yeah, on that side.
Okay.
The sack side.
All right. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, board members, do we have a motion?
Coover, move to approve based on support of the neighbors.
Okay, Mr. Cooper has a motion to approve. Who seconded? Mr. Hadaway has seconded. Any discussion? My only real issue with it is from the street side, you got a 9-foot wall. It's pretty tall. I know it's within, that's my only concern, but okay. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor of.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
In favor?
In favor. I'm going to vote against the request. The motion carries 3-1. Okay, next item.
Item number 13 is a variance request for 2348 Riverdale Court, located in the Magnolia Point subdivision. The request is for a fence height variance from 6.5 feet to 8 feet for a privacy fence in the R1 zoning district. The request is to construct approximately 98 linear feet of 8-foot tall privacy fencing along the rear and northwest corner side of the property, tapering with the elevation. The Magnolia Point of Seminole County's Homeowners Association has approved an architectural change, although the notice of approval does not specify what is being approved. Letters of support have been received from the affected neighbors on the north and west sides of the subject property. This concludes my presentation. I'm here for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
I'm here.
Yes, sir. If you please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Stephen Green and Tasha Green. That's my wife. And it's 2348 Riverdale Court, Oviedo, 32765.
Sir, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. So we moved here, I guess later in the last year, and love the area, very quiet. We have 4 small children, and when we're on the back of our property, the only concern we have is we have a nice pool, but when you look to the back of the rear of our property, our neighbors almost might as well be standing in our pool because our back of our yard slopes down. And the HOA, when they built this area back in '06, they have a privacy fence, but based on the way that the land is scaled, the 6-foot fence sits almost like 4 feet. And my neighbor to the left, he agrees. I didn't submit the letter with him because I didn't have enough time, but I spoke with him, he approved. The people to my right, they understand as well. But when you actually, I sent some photos, you can see of the back of the yard. If you stand right up against the fence, it's almost like I'm 6'3", and I mean, the fence is below me significantly, almost to my shoulder. And so the reason why we're requesting only a change on the back is really for privacy and safety for our kids, like 3 girls, 1 boy, young kids in the backyard in the pool. We don't want our neighbors, specifically the one on the back. And he understood. I went and talked to him. He said, yeah, when I'm outside, I can see all into your house. And so that's always been a little bit concerning, even though he's a really nice man. It's just that we don't want that type of, we want the privacy that we desire when we move to this area. And so that's why we're applying for that variance. Now on the sides, it's pretty much the same, 6 feet, 6 feet, but just for the back.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion?
Coover moved to approve.
Second, Attaway.
Mr. Coover's motion to approve, Mr. Attaway seconded. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor of.
Mr. Coover?
In favor.
Mr. Hadaway?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. The motion carries 4-0. And so that brings us back to
Item number 3.
item number 3. Okay, is the applicant present for item number 3?
Yes, I'm here. This is Palmer White at 1492 Southwind Drive.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
A moment to get caught up. There we go. Okay, sir, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
Not really, just I haven't had any complaints from any neighbors about where it sits. I set it where it's at mainly because of tree roots and trees. It's fairly secure, obscured from the neighbors, so no, but like I said, there's no complaints, so that's about all I have to add. Really, if I have to move it, it's going to have to be jacked up, and I'm going to have to put a foundation wall in or poured columns to hold it up because of the heights of the roots and stumps and that kind of thing, and the way the property slopes.
Okay, have you spoken?
So that's about it. The one corner of my shed is like 8'2" from the rear, and the other is 8.6 from the rear. And it's the end of the shed that faces the rear property, not the side. So it's the short end that faces it. That's about
Okay.
it.
Sir, have you spoken to your neighbors? How do they feel about it?
Yeah, well, the two in the back have not complained at all. The one on the right or left side said they can't even see it because of the trees. The other side is clear across the yard. They just came by and asked what the variance was for, and I explained it to them, and that's all they had to say about it. So
Okay.
that was it.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay,
Yes, sir.
is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion?
Hoover, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Mr. Coover. Do we have a second?
Second, Hadaway.
Mr. Hadaway, give us a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Motion carries 4-0, which brings us to our minutes.
Move to approve. Hadaway.
We have a motion to approve from Mr. Hadaway. Do we have a second?
I wasn't there. Thanks for approving the school in my backyard.
You're welcome.
Is this gonna die for lack of a second?
Might be the first time we could never approve minutes. I looked through them. I didn't see anything wrong with them. Do we have a second?
I'll move to second.
Okay. We have a second, Mr. Beagley. All right, any discussion? Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Coover?
I guess.
That way. Okay, and I vote in favor. Motion carries 4-0. We'll see next time if we can't get a bus stop at the end of your driveway. That's all we have for the good order. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.